Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Y'all were talking about the Cowboys before I came on.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
I'm looking forward to watching Micah Parsons.
Short of the touchdown as Micah Parsons made that play.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
Parsons has it, and the ball's out.
And boy, them Cowboys, I tell you, them Cowboys, they got back up again.
The Rich Eisen Show. Today's guest, senior writer for the MMQB, Albert Breer, Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, actor Blake Anderson, plus Bills wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Oh, yes. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Sitting here on our set in Los Angeles, California. I'm wearing purple, and I feel that I look good in it, and I'm very excited about today. And it's a great Friday show. It is going to be a lot of fun. We're gonna have some deep thinking. I'm not gonna lie to you, and we're also gonna have some recriminations. Albert Breer's first up, and we're gonna end this chesty week with me finally getting a conversation with Albert Breer on the books. He is one of the best in our business at the NFL information gathering and dissemination, and there's lots to talk about. He had an interesting story last night about one of the top stories in the NFL outside of the games. We'll get to that in a second. Emmanuel Sanders of the Buffalo Bills. Week 13 began last night. It ends on Monday night with a huge game in the AFC East. First place in the AFC East is on the line between the Bills and the visiting New England Patriots. The first seed in the AFC could be on the line eventually between these two teams. Good stuff. In between on this program, a very funny man, Blake Anderson. The new show, The Freak Brothers, on Tubi. It's a hell of a cast with Woody Harrelson and John Goodman and Tiffany Haddish and Andrea Savage and Adam Devine, who he goes way back with to Workaholics days. He's in hour number 3. And then Michael Irvin in the middle of this program. Talk about the Dallas Cowboys last night. Good to see you, Chris Brockman.
Hey,
how are you?
Rich,
here on NBC
man?
Sports on Peacock and more. Jay Felt is here on the program.
Hey,
Jay
Rich.
Felly is sitting in his spot instead of Mike Del Tufo, wherever he is doing something for someone else. And the candle's already lit for T.J. Jefferson, figuratively and now literally. Good to see you today, T.J. Jefferson.
Well, I just have one thing to say, Rich.
How about them Cowboys? Now, would you have held that sign up around late third quarter last night?
Well, it was going to get held up one way or the other. It was either going to get held up like this,
yeah,
or it was
going
to get like an eraser with me just wiping it off.
Would you really erased it?
Oh, yeah.
Come on,
yeah,
man.
You know, not because I'm mad. Well, yeah, because I would have been mad.
I know. Yeah, there it is. That's the version of it. You know, and I know we're in a very deep end of the pool here in this business of sports talk radio and conversation and things like that between the hours of 12 and 3 Eastern time. I get it, and I know what, potentially gets the clicks and what doesn't. But and I know having nuanced takes coming off of Thanksgiving, saying the Cowboys are going to be fine doesn't get those clicks. Doesn't get the clicks.
No, I ain't got time for
you. You know what I mean? Like nuanced conversation of me saying, "Hey, it's going to be fine.
Nah.
Don't worry about it." I look at the schedule, I see who's there and who's not, and it's a week-to-week league, and each week one win changes everything. The Cowboys are going to be just fine. And what the Cowboys established last night, once again, is their resiliency, which is what you need. You need obviously terrific players, and you need a little bit of luck, but you need that resiliency as well. In an NFL season where week to week things might not go your way, but The resiliency was there last night. They didn't have their head coach. They brought their defensive coordinator down from the booth. He was doing something for this season that he hadn't done before, which is coordinate the defense from the eye level. But Dan Quinn's been there and done that. It's not like it's something he's never done before. But when you take yourself out of routine in the NFL, that's why short week games are difficult. That's why if somebody's got COVID, it's difficult, with outside of the obvious reasons. They've got the resiliency. They've bounced back, and they also have a deep bench, and they got Tank Lawrence back last night. You could see how that's a difference maker. And, they established once again last night that their defense is potentially out of this world. And they've got a brilliant, brilliant player in Micah Parsons.
Oh, man.
A brilliant rookie. A brilliant, I can't say that word enough. That is a perfect word for him. Brilliant. 10 sacks now, leading all rookies. Number 11 in your program, number 10 in the sack sheet. Trevon Diggs now leads the league in interceptions with 9 of them. 4 picks of Taysom Hill, and they came one after another in the fourth quarter. 2 sacks in the game as well. And then, of course, like I said, you've got to be fortunate. You got to have luck on your side. This game turned last night on one of the worst calls I've seen in the NFL this year. One of the worst calls I've seen in the NFL this year. And there's been tons of questionable ones. There was that illegal, blindside block of a player that was rushing the quarterback. Come on. You looked at it over and over and over again. And it's just the fact that the officials threw that flag. And Taysom Hill had already dug himself out of his own end with a first down pass in a game where they were coming back in, and it was 13-7, and this is a game. And this was a game. And then they get put way behind the sticks, deep in their own end, wind up punting. Tony Pollard comes up with a huge backbreaker. That's the end of that. He could have done that anyway, even if the Saints had tied the score, even taken the lead. Because as I've told you here, and I'll say it again, it's obvious right now, as we are entering the bulk of Week 13 play in the longest regular season in NFL history in 2021, right now, Tony Pollard's a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott. And this is not to troll on anything. I'm not a troll. This is to see this guy in Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best 3-down backs this league has seen in recent years. Not the same. He is not the same. He does not run with the same vigor. He does not have that same pop when he's trying to turn that 2-yard gain into a 5-yard gain. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the burst. You know who's got the pop and the burst? It's Tony Pollard. And if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I sit Ezekiel Elliott. And I know they got the midi bye and they got that big game against the Washington football team coming up, and that's my point. What the Cowboys have earned right now is the ability to rest somebody like Ezekiel Elliott, because this is the longest regular season ever, and you do need him with that pop come mid-January.
Yeah.
You do need him with that pop and staying in on third down and protecting number 4, or coming out of the backfield on one of those screen passes and taking it for a nice chunk play. He doesn't have that burst, it doesn't seem like right now. And what the Cowboys have earned is the ability to do this, because sitting there at 8-4, all they got to do is just win one of their 2 remaining games against the Washington football team, and this division is theirs. Because it ain't going to be the Giants, and it ain't going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, and they do play both of those teams once more. The only game left on their schedule that just jumps out at me that has some sort of significance for their long-term viability this year is the one against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 17, the second to last week of the season. Can they win enough games between now and then? And I know without Zeke, that might put them behind the 8 ball, but just one game. Sit him out. What if the next time you see Zeke is December 19th? Give him 2 weeks of rest. Bring him back. You've won games without Dak this year, and Tyron Smith this year, and Tank Lawrence this year. You could win one without Ezekiel Elliott when Tony Pollard has run his head off. That would be my counsel to the Cowboys. Because you want to get to the spot in Week 17 where if you beat the Cardinals, you might have a shot at that 1 seed. Potentially. Their problem is they got to leapfrog a Bucs team that's already beaten them and a Packers team that also seems to have the stuff. But that's the way the Cowboys season looks to me. Amari Cooper played only a third of the snaps last night, did have one big chunk play and then nothing else.
Huge catch, though.
It was a big catch in the first quarter of the game. But CeeDee Lamb is remarkably talented. So is Michael Gallup, the way that he put those feet down in the corner of the end zone that made an actual fade route work. That was incredible. Pollard is terrific. I mean, the Cowboys have a ton of really talented, brilliant players who are playmakers. And a playmaker on this program, Michael Irvin's going to be joining us later on in hour number 2. He was there last night as part of the NFL Network broadcast team. So, Dallas, they look like they are right on track to win the NFC East, which means they've got a home game. Can they get better than the 4th spot, which means they don't have to play the team that emerges from the NFC West as a second-place team, the toughest wild card opponent you can possibly have? Can you get that bye week? That might be a tough one, but they're still in the mix for it. They're only 2 losses behind the Cardinals right now, who come off of their bye at Chicago this week. That's not a great assignment if you'd think for the Cowboys to see Arizona come off into Chicago, but you never know. The Buccaneers are sitting right there in front of them by only a half a game. And then you've got the Packers at 9-3, sitting on a bye week. And Dallas is only a game behind them. They're in that mix. But if you want to go long-term, you want to go long, deep into the season, I say you rest Zeke. You can try and win a game against the Washington football team without him 1 week. And then let's see what he looks like coming back to the Giants. Let Tony Pollard carry the day. He sure looks like he can do it. With that huge touchdown return and Thanksgiving Day and that big 58-yarder, like, boom. And number 43 on the New Orleans Saints, I should have written it down. That's my one last thought on last night's game. Where Pollard comes out the gate.
Oh.
And there's only one guy that can try to run him down.
Marcus Williams.
And it looked like Marcus Williams was running alongside of him.
Yeah,
and honestly, like the way that he was running alongside of him instead of getting right to him, it looked to me and the rest of the poker guys who were watching this game together like he was taunting Pollard. Like if it was the other way around, you'd see, like, are you taunting him? Like you're not going to get him by like he tried to tackle him by taunting him. It looked like
he was looking for help that was.
It looked
not
like one
there.
of those cameras, that zooms along the speed skaters, to get that nice angle. Along the side right there.
I was sitting there like, is he not going to try to tackle him?
What was that? We're like, what's going on?
I also thought about you as Pollard's running because I was just like, oh, this guy Rich is just going to be.
I said he's the better running back right now.
I was waiting for a text message.
I did text you guys.
It came.
I told you guys.
You did. You did.
Before we get to Albert Breer, let's talk about what Albert Breer was reporting on and one of the things that we're going to be talking about here. To me, if you are not vaccinated in the NFL or in any sport or any business that tells you that the rules of employment in this business are you must get vaccinated to get this X number of, what's the word for it? Benefits of activities you can undertake as a member of the NFL, for instance. I'm going to stop generalizing. I'm just going to go straight to it here. The NFL came up with rules with the Players Association. Vaccinated players can do X, and then unvaccinated players cannot do X. They must do Y and Z. And Y and Z, not as great as X. Science-related, safety-related, and that was the way it is. For somebody to fake their vaccination card, like Antonio Brown and 2 others, Mike Edwards, a backup safety, and a free agent wide receiver, John Franklin III at the time, to go and fake it rather than take the shot and then go about your business is reprehensible. Reprehensible behavior. Own it, guys. Own it. Own it. You don't want to get vaccinated? own it. And then deal with the way that you have to deal with things. To go around the rules and then walk into a facility where your coach has been diagnosed throughout his life and dealt with 3 forms of cancer. 3. Bruce Arians. 3 forms of cancer. Your head coach. And there's also a guy in Tom Moore who's 83 years of age. And you're walking around like you're vaccinated and you're not because you faked it. It's reprehensible behavior. Reprehensible. And I got to stop banging the table because the mic flag keeps falling off. All right. It's reprehensible behavior. And I don't understand how this is fine with the Bucs that in 3 weeks you'll just let Antonio Brown back in the building. And I don't have my head in the sand. I know he's supremely talented. And I know the quarterback and Tom Brady loves him. And he makes them a better football team. But they essentially won the Super Bowl last year without him being the top AB that we've seen and business booming AB before. But he said he was vaccinated and walked around the building. And he was not. And he also used Tom Brady's trainer, Alex Guerrero, as his dupe. Handed him, reportedly, the vaccination card from Citrus County, Florida, population 150,000 people, apparently hour and a half away from Tampa, where he's, I imagine, not really from. He used Tom Brady's trainer as his dupe. Here's my card. I'm going to loop your favorite guy maybe on planet Earth outside of your own family and teammates, Tom. He's my dupe. Here's my card. You're now roped into it if I get busted. And then I don't understand how I don't compute it. And again, this is clearly personal preferences or freedom or whatever you want to talk about it, but the suspension is going to cost him $183,000 and change. The vaccine's free. And we found out about it because you didn't pay the chef $10,000.
Right. Just
do the math. Does this money just not matter to him? You know what I mean? Like, one will cost you $183,000 and break the trust maybe with your coaching staff and your teammates and your organization. One will do that. Another is you pay the guy who's pissed enough about it that he texts and tells everyone about it that you asked for a fake vaccination card. That's $10,000, much less than that, $183,000. Or the thing is, you take the vaccine and it's free. And then you can walk around as a vaccinated player, which clearly you wanted to do. And you don't put an 83-year-old person like Tom Moore at risk. Or your head coach, who's been, again, diagnosed with and treated for 3 forms of cancer. 3. I just don't understand how that's cool. How's that cool? How's that fine? Yeah, come on back. You served your suspension. That's fine. Let's go play football. Score touchdowns. Honestly. What do you think? 844-204-RICH. I'm happy to have that conversation. Really. Although, you know, I don't get it. But I speak from the heart, man. I speak from the gut, and that's just the way I feel. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Albert Breer on the program, Michael Irvin on the program, Emmanuel Sanders on the program. We'll have a fun time with Blake Anderson. TJ's Big Ass Grab Bag. What's the name of the new segment that we're calling it again? What is it again?
What's more likely?
What's more likely? Chris Brockman will give a few scenarios of this sports weekend right in front of us. College football, huge day Saturday. Week 13, huge day Sunday. An 18-game win streak the Phoenix Suns are taking into Golden State tonight. They set a record for their franchise. Last night, back-to-back game. back against the Warriors tonight. Lots of questions about what's more likely and what's not. And you at 844-204-RICH. When we come back, Albert Breer, who reported on this story with Antonio Brown and two others that were suspended for 3 games in the NFL. How do you banish high rates on car insurance? Well, you switch to Geico during Geico Ween. You know, I like making that sound. Let me do it again. October is Geico's favorite time of the year, folks. And Geico's been working even harder to cast out high rates on car insurance and craft just the right coverage for you and your family. But here's the thing you may not know about Geico. They could also help you uncover more savings when you bundle the other things parked in your driveway, like your beloved motorcycle, boat, or even home away from home, your RV. Geico could even help you save on homeowners and renters insurance. So visit geico.com today, and you'll see firsthand that switching your insurance coverage doesn't have to be scary. The only thing that will haunt your nightmares is seeing just how much you could have saved if you'd switched sooner. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance. Happy Geico-ween, everybody. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
NBC Sports on Peacock, NBC Sports Audio, Sirius XM Channel 85. This was a first for me, and I've been covering sports for quite some time. I've never seen a coach arrive in a new spot, much heralded arrival, and he celebrates it by stepping to the middle of a basketball floor and does a public reading of The Waterboy. And wait a minute. I'm told Brian Kelly was not reading The Waterboy as Bobby Boucher. So what was he doing last night? Let's take a look.
Well, this is a great way to get started, and I haven't even won all my games yet. It's a great night to be a Tiger. I'm here with my family, and we are so excited to be in the great state of Louisiana, but more importantly, to be with you great fans and to be part of what is going to be an incredible ride here at Louisiana State University.
You can do it! You can do it! Was that really screaming at him?
That was Rob Schneider, yeah.
I'm getting good.
You can do it! So
do it.
did they talk that way in Everett, Massachusetts? That's where he's born from. That's where he's born from.
Rich, they most definitely do not.
Am I the only one who didn't hear that much of it?
What? Family? Family?
I think I was looking
It's university.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's great to be here. What are we doing?
Did he end it with a Go Tigers?
Listen to me when I'm talking to you.
I say, boy. I
say,
I
boy.
say it like Foghorn Leghorn style now. Okay. I say.
He's
say,
just,
boy.
This is just going to be so
I haven't
much.
even won all my games
This
yet.
is going to be so much. Games can't start fast enough for Brian Kelly right now.
I mean, what's their schedule?
They
Tigers.
cannot start fast enough
I say.
because he's just going to. I mean, in all seriousness.
Oh, they open with Florida State.
Well, I mean, that was a heck of a game, Notre Dame, Florida State this year. Heck of a football game. Again, for a guy who this week is taking all sorts of hits because he, can you believe what he's saying? Can you trust what's coming out of his mouth when he does one thing and then he leaves? We would all leave to have our salary doubled and go to a spot where you can win just as much and just as well, or even if you think it's an easier path to winning. Give him credit too. Everyone's saying Lincoln Riley ran from the SEC. This guy's going straight into the belly of the SEC beast.
True.
But This is not the best look for a guy who this week everyone's saying, can you believe what he's saying?
Oh, my God.
You can do it!
All night long.
Back here on the Rich Eisen Show, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show, he does a great job on Sports Illustrated. The MMQB is terrific must-read material for him, and he was the one who was reporting last night about what was on Antonio Brown's vaccination card and so much and so forth. And here also to face some music is one of my friends from the basketball school in Columbus, Ohio, Albert Breer. How are you doing, Albert?
Well, I guess you could say this is a conversation 10 years in the making, right?
Well, you could say that. Yeah, you could say that, sure.
Hey, you know, and I really enjoyed listening to Ryan Shazier on your show earlier this week. I did catch that. And, you know, I'll give you a little insight to the way we think.
When you say we, what do you mean we? What do you mean we?
You know, like all of us.
Who's
all
us?
of us who went to school there. I mean, you know, maybe at some schools, your basketball team knocking off the number one team in the country would soften the blow of a football loss. Not in Columbus.
No,
not at Ohio State.
That's too bad.
And Ryan Shazier said it correctly. We are not a basketball school. We are a football school. And we do not run to basketball when things aren't going right in football. We are a football school. So I appreciate Ryan saying that earlier in the week, and I am happy to take any medicine you can dish out because Michigan played great. They played great, and they deserve to win the game, no question about it.
Thank you, Albert. That's very nice of you, and I think that's very high road of you, and I hope that you're not passing out right now from the lack of oxygen because of how much of a high road that you've taken, Albert. I mean, I could go down the list of tweets that you sent in my direction in the last a few years where the road was very low. I mean, there's very low. And I appreciate you waiting till Friday because if this conversation had happened on Monday, it might have gone a little different. Well, it was before the big win for your basketball team to help, prove that you're. No. Like I said, that didn't do much. I think that. I think I can speak for everybody who's in Columbus that this one leaves a mark, no question. Well, then let's get to that. Just in all seriousness, like what is the adjustment here? Because as you know, Harbaugh made some adjustments this past year, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Don Brown couldn't defend. The defense that was terrific against everybody was just ripe for Ryan Day's plucking, whether he was the OC or the HC. So what do you think is the is the way that Ohio State's going to go back to the drawing board and try and beat Michigan? Albert? A lot of it, Rich, is that this stuff that you saw on Saturday wasn't a one-off. It was everything sort of coming crashing down at once. And you saw the Oregon game played out very much like the Michigan game, right? So that was about physicality on both sides of the ball. It makes you ask the question, with those great receivers you have, had you lost a little bit of that edge because, you practice the way you play? And if you're throwing the ball around in practice, are you, creating the sort of physicality you need? So I think that that's one piece of it. The red zone offense was a problem all year. That relates to the running game. The third down defense was an issue during the year. And so, it's like all these things that happened on Saturday, I think anybody who follows Ohio State would tell you, everything came crashing down at once, right? And so it's a good job by the Michigan coaches, no question about it. I think you're going to see a new defensive coordinator in Columbus. I think one thing that Ryan Day has sort of struggled with was replacing Jeff Hafley, who did a fantastic job 2 years ago and left as a result of that to go to Boston College. And then I think, creating a little bit more of an edge on offense, maybe they add an assistant or two on that side of the ball too. But I can promise you the talent's there. It's just, I think that there were some systemic issues with this year's team that all showed up at once. And, it's quite a scene on Saturday. I wish I could have enjoyed, all of that. The teams walking out of the tunnel. That was amazing. Falling down. That was so great. I wish I could have enjoyed that quite the same way. I wish I could have enjoyed that the way that you probably did, at the end of the day. You could remove the word probably. From that sentence. Absolutely, positively, definitely did. And as you know, it was like that. I think when we get a couple months out, I'll be able to enjoy the scenery of that because that was amazing. It's a Big Ten. That's what a Big Ten game should look like. It's what it should look like. Yeah, 100,000 people plus. I've said this to people. I
I'm on an island on this. I sort of wish the Big Ten championship game was at Soldier Field. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I really do. Like, and Ohio State's obviously been in Indianapolis a lot, playing that game over the last decade. And there's just something about it after you play on these, and it seems like we saw on Saturday all year long, and then you go inside into a dome to play the championship. I don't know. There's just something to me that feels like that feels a little wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I think most coaches would tell you they'd rather play inside. So be it.
Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. How will the Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley contracts affect NFL coaches and NFL contracts? Because the contract that Brian Kelly got, just in terms of terms and almost the dollars, but we assume he's going to reach whatever incentives are there based on his ability to win wherever he's been, and now he's at LSU. So that contract, 10 years, $100 million, let's just say that was Gruden's deal that got so many people sort of upright in their chairs when he got it from the Raiders, Albert. How do you think that's going to manifest itself?
Well, I think, Rich, the first thing is obviously I think there are going to be some coaches that are going to say, how can I leverage that? And I think we've seen that to some degree with Cliff in Arizona and, what happened with the interest from Oklahoma. So, I think that's the first piece, which is, pretty simple, like, guys at that level. And I think Mel Tucker is the one that got a lot of people's attention, to be honest with you, because, Brian Kelly, has at least won and been to the playoffs. I mean, Mel Tucker, and I think he's a great, I think he's done a great job at Michigan State, but he's been there for 2 years. He's been a head coach for 3. And so I think that was the one that sort of, moved the needle and pushed some of these things in the direction that they've gone in. And so I think that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it's way more interesting to me, which is, what did you just see USC and LSU do? Normally, when a school is in that sort of spot, what they'll do is they'll either go to somebody who has a connection to the school, or they'll go and say, okay, like, let's go find the hot group of 5 coach, or let's go find the guy who's at like a Minnesota or a Kentucky or something like that, and let's bring him up and have him at a blue blood, or let's go get the hot coordinator at Alabama. What did LSU and USC do? They said, the hell with that. We're not doing that. We're going to go to another blue blood, and we're going to steal that blue blood's coach. So LSU steals Notre Dame's coach. USC steals Oklahoma's coach. I think the effect that you could feel in the NFL now, more teams that have openings may be willing to take swings like that. And we used to see this in the NFL. If you go back and you look, like what happened with Bill Parcells in 1997, what happened with John Gruden in 2002, coach trades.
Belichick.
Belichick. And so, like, I think if I'm an owner right now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying there's a little bit of a shallow candidate pool this year just because there's been so much turnover over the last 10 years. Is it worth, if I'm Chicago, calling New Orleans and saying, is there anything we can do to get Sean Payton here? He's from Chicago. You get him in there to work with Justin Fields. Our general manager has a relationship with him. If you're the Raiders and you need to face the franchise, a leader, do you call Pittsburgh and say, like, hey, is there any way Mike Tomlin might be interested in coming here? And, a lot of this has to be back-channeled and everything else, but, I was talking to, an executive for an NFC team earlier in the week, and, what he said to me is, the interesting part about this is you do have some coaches who may be reaching their natural conclusions in certain places. Like, right? Like, so Sean Payton's been in New Orleans for, I think it's 16 years now.
Yeah, 2006.
And and he doesn't have a quarterback, right? The roster's getting a little older. They've been fighting through cap issues the last few years. Is this just time? Same in Pittsburgh. The general manager, Kevin Colbert, might retire. The quarterback might retire. They may actually wind up having their first losing season, which is an incredible thing, but first losing season in 15 years with Tomlin as the coach. Tomlin has now been there as long as Bill Cowher was in Pittsburgh, which is mind-blowing, right? So is it time for him? Is it just a natural conclusion? So I think if I'm one of these NFL teams, I think there are a couple of teams that are thinking this way. You look at what happened with USC. You look at what happened with LSU. They went big game hunting. So if you're one of these teams, do you look at it and say, before we go down the normal path and go and get a coordinator or go and get a retread, let's just at least look. Let's see if somebody like Sean Payton or Mike Tomlin is available. It's an interesting idea, I think, that a lot of teams are going to take from what happened over the course of the last week.
And how possible do you think? I know that it's great food for thought, but I mean, the Sean Payton one does certainly fascinates because, he and Pace know each other, and that would be another way for Pace to try and keep his shelf life going in Chicago. But I can't even imagine how much it would cost, right? That would be significant in terms of draft capital. It wouldn't be just a couple of fourths, right?
Right. It's complicated, and there's no question. It's definitely complicated. And I mean, look, here's the thing: is you have to find a way to back channel it, right? Because you don't want to go to that team and then go through the process, and then the coach decides, oh well, I don't want to do that. That actually happened 7 years ago, between the Browns and Niners with your coach, Jim Harbaugh, where, they kind of gotten down the road where the Browns were willing to send 2 threes to San Francisco. And you remember things weren't good between the Niners and Harbaugh at the time. And Harbaugh decided basically, I don't want to go. I want to stay with the Niners in 2014. So you don't want a situation like that where you go down the road with another team and it falls apart at the end. So you have to back channel some of this. But, yeah, I mean, I think, if you're willing to give up draft picks, I think these things can happen. Are they complicated? Yes. Do you have to back channel a bunch of, discussion? Yes. Do you have to work through intermediaries? Yes. But I think it is possible, and the reward could be really big on the back end. The other thing, Rich, can you think of a time in NFL history when teams have been more willing to part with draft picks? I mean, you look at, what the Rams have done, right? The Rams gave up 2 first-round picks for a corner. Jalen Ramsey, great player, but 2 first-round picks for a corner. The Texans gave up 2 first-round picks for an offensive tackle in Laramie Tunsil. So I think that's the other piece of it, is that teams are maybe more willing than they ever have been to part with high-end draft capital in order to bring in difference makers. And I think outside of having a great quarterback, there may not be a bigger difference maker in a football operation than a great head coach.
Senior NFL reporter, the MMQB's Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's get to your reporting on Antonio Brown's 3-game suspension. Same to go with Mike Edwards, backup safety, and then a free agent wide receiver, John Franklin III. I give you the floor. What can you tell me?
Yeah, so this was sort of – it's interesting because the NFL's put the ball in the team's courts on this. And we saw this, a couple weeks ago with, the findings in the Aaron Rodgers situation and how the Packers were fined for letting, Aaron go to the podium without his mask on. And so, in this case, it was the same sort of thing, where they were looking at the Buccaneers' actions and then they were looking at the players' actions. And so they found that the Buccaneers hadn't done anything wrong, that they had gone down all the proper channels, and that they were deceived by the players too. I thought what was really interesting about the whole thing is, the 3 players, the way that they were flagged during the investigation, they all had vaccination cards from this place called Citrus County, Florida. Now, I'm not familiar with it. Or wasn't until the last 24 hours, but it's 90 minutes north of Tampa, and it's got a population of 150,000. So I mean, this is a dot on the map in Florida, and so I mean, I guess the NFL was just going through the vaccination cards. All right, Tampa, Citrus County, Tampa, Citrus County, and so obviously they looked into that and wound up busting those 3 guys. And then I think from here where this goes, the league's going to continue to leave it up to the teams to enforce this stuff. So, short of, another story coming out, Rick Stroud at the Tampa Bay Times did a great job, reporting on this, over the last couple of weeks, that winds up, fingering a player for having a fake vax card. I don't know if the league is going to get very proactive in trying to find other cases.
So what about the Bucs' reaction to it, Albert? I mean,
it'll be interesting.
Well, because, again, as I pointed out at the top of the show before you called in, Arians has been treated for 3 forms of cancer. Tom Moore is 83 years of age. And of all the people to hand the fake vaccination card to as the method to deliver it to the Bucs, Antonio Brown, according to Rick Stroud's reporting, used Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady's guy.
Yeah.
He looped him into it, and he used him as a dupe. Here, Alex, here's my fake card. You the one. You give it to the Bucs. And so this is all cool. AB can catch touchdowns. Let's have him back. This is fine.
It's crazy, right? And I think, I think the worst part about it, Rich, if this was a player at the bottom of the roster, I guess it might be a little more understandable because it might be a job security issue, right? I don't think any of us would like that, but if that was the case, like, okay, like, I kind of understand that. This wasn't that. Like, AB wasn't getting cut. You know what I mean? Like, this was literally boiled down to his personal comfort. Like, he didn't want to wear a mask in the building, right? So that's what makes it, I think, infinitely worse, is that, like, it's just, I mean, it's such a selfish act, And we heard, BA say last year that he was on zero tolerance, but that was a while ago. And the interesting part about it to me is, and talking to some people about how the Bucs struggled over that month where they didn't win a game, right? One of the things that kind of continually came up was like how Gronkowski and Brown were like sort of like luxury items last year because they entered the fold late and they were sort of integrated late and they kind of like were like, let's game some stuff up for them and get them making plays, but we're not going to be overly reliant on them. That's different this year. One of the things, again, that came up, like when I was asking around about why the Bucs were struggling, was they'd been integrated, and Brady really trusted those two guys. And so when those two guys got hurt, the Bucs offense started struggling in critical spots because those were Brady's guys. And so that's what makes this fascinating is this is a guy who Brady's really come to rely on.
Right.
And we know how important
and this is how much he respects that, is to hand a fake vaccination card to Alex Guerrero? You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like now, like Brady's priority is to win the Super Bowl, right?
Of course.
So, I mean, like, like if you're Brady, do you excuse it? I think Brady probably is so single-minded that he just wants Brown on the field in the playoffs. But if you're BA, can you look the other way? You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, the fact that they haven't released him yet tells me that they're going to tolerate it, but it obviously flies in the face of a lot of things that have been said and done there over the course of the last year.
What does he sit there thinking when the Bucs rightfully are touting, proudly that they were 100% vaccinated, and he's walking around the building like, yeah, we are. It's just. I mean, it's like if it's like you're making a liar of me, right?
Right. It's like that's the thing is like you're making a liar of me. You make me look bad when you do this too. So, and like you said, like that's without even touching like the health stuff, which is, I mean, they have like one of the oldest coaching staffs in the league. Right? Exactly. Like, you know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
it's like they're looking for the pool house in Cocoon. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just because
so
they have the fountain of youth there, man. It's just, I honestly,
it's such a tremendously selfish act, and like it's one of those things where. I guess you always like kind of the equation is always does a guy's talent exceed his problems, and if Antonio Brown's been sort of walking that tightrope forever, and I think that this is something that I like. If you're the Bucs, like, do you draw the line here, or is it just winning a championship over everything else, and it doesn't matter? We're going to bring him in, and we'll get him in line for the last couple weeks of the regular season, and then the 5 weeks of the playoffs, and we'll deal with this after that.
Maybe so.
They become so single-minded. I mean, they've inherited Brady's mindset down there. There's no question about that in so many different ways. It'll be interesting to see, whether or not they draw a line here because, again, like that single-mindedness would make you believe, like, that they may find a way to tolerate this, especially when you consider – that they had an idea what was coming out, like they were involved in the investigation. They fully cooperated with it. So you would think if they were prepared for what was going to happen on Thursday, and if they were going to release him, it probably would have happened by now.
All right, Albert, thanks for the call. Greatly appreciate it. Oh, what are you doing tomorrow night? What are you going to be up to tomorrow night?
My plans is like this has been such a staple for me for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
It's I'll have to find something to do. Now I'll be watching you guys.
Right. Because you're a Big Ten guy. You got to root for Michigan to represent the Big Ten in the big enchilada, right? You got to root for that.
Beware of Kirk Ferentz.
Oh, I don't need to be told that. I don't need to be told that. I don't need to be told that.
I can tell you from experience.
I know that, but it's not in their house. It's in a neutral site. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for the time, Albert. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich. Good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you,
High Road. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That's Albert Breer right there on the Rich Eisen Show. He's going to now go get more oxygen. He's taking such a big high road. All right, when we come back, we'll set up what tomorrow is going to look like, and when you will know whether there's an open seat on the musical chairs for the national semifinal games or not. And your calls at 844-204-RICH.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Tomorrow, on Saturday, to see how it's all going to shake out with the college football situation. The national championship semifinals will be set by tomorrow night, by midnight tomorrow night. It's all going to start with the Big 12 championship game at the Jones Mahal at 12 Eastern time on ABC, Baylor versus Oklahoma State. If Baylor wins, Oklahoma State's out, and that removes them from the mix should one of the remaining seats open, because we know Georgia's coming in. The only thing we know for sure is Georgia is in. And if Georgia wins, then Alabama is out. So if the first game goes down, Oklahoma State versus Baylor, and Baylor wins, well, then that's the way things kind of can open up the door for Notre Dame, right? And then you've got Georgia playing Alabama at 4 Eastern time on CBS. And then ABC's got Houston and Cincinnati. That's a home game. The AAC championship, that's being played at Nippert Stadium for the Cincinnati Bearcats. It's a home game. If Alabama beats Georgia, then you know there are 2 seats only left. That's it. And if Cincinnati beats Houston at the same time, then we go into the Big Ten championship game knowing at that point in time there's 1 seat left. Correct? That's how you'll know
Correct,
it.
yeah,
One
correct.
seat left. And it would belong to Michigan with a win over Iowa. And if not, and if Oklahoma State's won earlier in the day, then Oklahoma State will be rooting its head off for Iowa. If Baylor beats Oklahoma State at that point in time, then wouldn't it be interesting that Notre Dame is rooting for Iowa right there, so they could get in? It would be Cincinnati, I imagine, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Alabama. If Georgia beats Alabama, correct, then Oklahoma State will be sitting there right there thinking that's our spot. Because even if Cincinnati and Michigan wins, that's the 4th spot. It belongs to them, correct?
I think so.
So it all starts with the first game in the Big 12 championship game in Dallas in the Metroplex in Arlington. And if Oklahoma State wins that, then they sit back and say, okay, do your work, Georgia.
Yep.
Go get your revenge. Go hunt.
Man.
Because then it would be their spot, regardless of Cincinnati and Houston, and regardless of Michigan and Iowa, correct? Oklahoma State would be in.
If they win, yeah.
Right, if Georgia beats Alabama.
Right.
And they win.
Right.
If Baylor wins, then, I mean, then it's total bedlam. You know, if Baylor wins and then Iowa wins and Georgia wins,
then Notre Dame is in.
Well, for sure.
For sure.
That's the way your Saturday's going to go.
Wow, it's going to be awesome.
Throughout the day. And it's going to be fun.
So good.
844-204-RICH, number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's go to Chuck in Virginia. You're first in. You're first up. What's up, Chuck?
How you doing, Rich?
What's going on?
Not much. I hope everybody's having a blessed day and
Thank
good
you.
morning.
You too.
You, Chuck.
Before I ask you this question, I just want to say I've been working for this company, I'll just say a grocery store, for over 4 years. And ever since the pandemic started, they gave us opportunities to get the vaccine and show us this vaccine card. What they do is we'll give them the vaccine card, and they'll call a special number to make sure it's a legit card. And if it happens to be a fake card, not only they'll terminate you on the spot, they'll also call the police on you, stuff like that. So my question is to you, Rich, is why do privileged people make stupid mistakes that they have opportunities that us folks can't get? Like greatest doctors, they can get on the spot. Us, we have to wait in line to get a doctor or wait on the phone call. So that's my question for you, Rich, and I hope y'all have a blessed day and healthy
Thank
day.
you. I wish I had an answer for you, Chuck. I wish I did. But I don't want you to look at Antonio Brown and paint the rest of the NFL with the AB brush. He is an outlier in my estimation. And are there other players who may have done this? I proffer to think that other NFL teams are right now going through those vaccination cards much more closely than before. And I thank you for the call, Chuck. I'm sure they're doing that, but don't just. Antonio Brown has more than anyone else, brought questions about players and their mindsets and the NFL and were headlines where none of us want to be talking about. He leads the league in that department over the last 3 years. But he's incredibly talented. He has a resume that would put him in the Hall of Fame. And so teams abide by it. And I think if I'm a member of the Bucks right now, I'm like, so he's been walking around like that, and I've got kids at home. I go see my parents. Really? Is that what's going on? That's what I'm sitting there if I'm sitting in that locker room. Who else can we talk to here on the Rich Eisen Show? Let's go to Pam in North Carolina. What's up, Pam?
Rich, first of all, Cocoon, great movie.
Thank you.
I need a whiteboard and a nail file for the college breakdown. Whiteboard, keep track, nail file, because there's going to be a lot of nail biting watching those teams, and I hope Rudy's alma mater finds a way to get in and karma takes over.
Well, by the way, I've already got my manicure before the Michigan-Ohio State game. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, I bet you do. And you're going to need another one when it's done. I love your show, but my comment was Brian Kelly's speech on the basketball field, on the basketball court. Ow, bad taste in the mouth. I feel it's the equivalent of divorce papers, ink not dry. Your significant other shows up with their new significant other at a family function. Bad taste all around.
Yeah, you know what? Thankfully, I haven't had that feeling in terms of DIVORCE. But you can't blame him. He's in his new spot. I mean, and then of course LSU is